Go ahead.
Hey everyone, thanks for everything. This is awesome. My name is Lauer. I work a lot in the stable education side of the world, Fortinet. One of the things I know is that I have a business I have to take care of. I think Corey has done very well. His presentations and TJ. Ultimately, we're here to support you guys. We're here to support, make sure that you guys' safety and security is number one. And also for the students and the next generation is great. So that's a big push for why we do what we do. That's part of this program now, so on the Fortinet side. So real quick, show of hands, who here has dabbled in grants, whether you're researching grants, responding to grants? Okay, show of hands real quick. So depending on what it is, if they were foundational level, which would be kind of where your private organizations, state, or ultimately coming down from federal funds, government supporting funds, it can be a very big hassle and very big time suck. On top of everything else, we have technology grants and the people process side of the organization. You got to figure out what you can do on the monetary side to make a business case that actually counts. I think that's probably the biggest change I've seen in higher education and education in general since the actual pandemic has happened. It's changed, probably the sea change of digital learning and just moving us into this expansive growth of all things technology. Is now the level is now being shifted down for business cases that can be made at a more technical level to communicate that up because technology is now touching everything, right? No longer just real quick at the education side, higher ed is really good at this, but no longer education both side, you can't actually superintendent be blind to the fact of the matter of the risk that sits out there. Where you mentioned LAU was unified earlier. That's a big concern conversation. Because ultimately there's a cost. $8,662 a minute is the cost for downtime in education. Whether that is for DDoS attack, whether it's for ransomware, that's just the cost of you to be down for the minute. There's a time afterwards, right? That's not serious. Ultimately, remediation, whatever that looks like. So, what we did at Fortinet is we've basically seen the need and we try to fit that need. So, the grant support program is very simple. Very easy program. Right off the bat, you don't have to be a Fortinet customer. You don't have to use Fortinet product currently, and even the funds that you get available, you might use for these services. You don't have to buy Fortinet. We'd like you to. We'd like you to use the partners that would want to go towards that. We're not going to sit there and say, hey, get a PO on the side before you get some funding information provided by us.
Mike, I'm glad you emphasized that, but you all, we would appreciate if you leverage as the partner of choice. And you all, I want to just say this real quickly. Microsoft is making an investment in their diverse partners. And when I proposed to them that we need to go to the HBCUs because I felt they were lacking the most, and what secure network partner do you, I said, and we had just started our relationship with Fortinet. And Microsoft said, okay, so remember you all, they're funding all of this. They're funding us being here, they're funding the food. Fortinet is also making investments in this as well. So I just want you all to know that you don't have to, we prefer you to, because as long as we're able to show that we have closed some deals, we have grown opportunities, they will invest more marketing dollars in programs and initiatives like this. So that's all I want to say. Just, you don't have to, but we know that there are other businesses that are competing. I know we deal with it all the time, every day with SafePC, and that's okay. I mean, I love competition, but at the same time, I think very few companies have a partnership that we have with Fortinet that have a grant program. And then I said, wait a minute, I'm gonna bring you a grant writer too. So we don't have no excuse on you not getting the funding you need. So I don't know too many IT companies that are offering what we're offering as well. So I just want to make that important.
That's a good segue to also, like Anita did mention. Ultimately, I think the best value is going to be when you go look for grants and funding. If you go down this route, we also would love for you too. You're going to find that the Microsoft Fortinet partnership is going to give you the strongest capability to secure, protect you, and get you into the future that's there. I always look at this conversation not just technology, but people process technology. That's ultimately what frameworks need to address. That's what the NIST framework addresses from a security standpoint, from a risk assessment standpoint, or business practices have to look at. So we're always trying to look at this and think from those other two angles instead of just technology, people, and processes. That's where I've seen, we partner, like TJ mentioned, with so many other folks that are out there, but the value really comes towards as our strong partnerships fit, you're going to get the best synergy on that. So partnering with SafeDC and obviously Microsoft, it's a win-win. So the program is available right now free for any SLED, what we call state level education. Healthcare is in that as well, so there's some synergies, interesting synergies when it comes to higher education and healthcare because there's multiple grant awardees that you can kind of synergize and have funds for. Usually there's percentages, and we can talk about that a little bit more. That allows for network equipment, software, hardware, training from there. What we actually do is we have a direct relationship with the grants office. So my team specifically, I can tell you all day about federal funds that are out there. I can tell you about the grant scores that my depth is like this. We people have depth that is like this, right? So what we do is we partner with the grants office. They've been around for 20 plus years. This is something like Medina mentioned. There's other people who utilize them, but we utilize them in a very unique way, and this is why we see some really great traction there. So since 2021, about $1.2 billion in grant funds have been awarded by our customers using grants office themselves, and it's about 67% grant award success rate for state local education customers. I want to make sure to interject kind of this statistic here. When people go at grants alone without not knowing or having a background in at least one, just by the rim, it's usually about a 5 to 7% success rate. It is not very good. So when you get someone behind you who's going to help you, getting that up to a 67% ratio, that's a much better metric to me. It also shows the value that you go after. You can make some urban plans, whether your technology plan, people plan, process. Here's a real quick list of top recipients that we normally run with in the education space. It's everything from K-12, public, private, charter, colleges, universities. That's your R1 research institutions, all the way down to colleges. Not to put that in any other area, other than the fact that it is a wide view, and also your early childhood development centers. That's something that is really taking forward. This is something I'm very passionate about, but we're talking about training and getting people into this concept of having a cyberware culture. One of the things that we're doing at Fortinet, Microsoft does it well with their training. People are starting to look to actually get the training into digestible nuggets so we can actually get kids much earlier. Tomorrow I have to do a presentation at my hometown. We live in a place where there's a large homeschool population, so I got asked to present on cybersecurity for that population as well as also for K-12. So it's got to be kind of a joint meet together. But in that construct, by the time kids are 11, already 89% of them have social media accounts. You already have the ability to look at anything from a cybersecurity perspective, risk category, and they're not getting trained on that level. So again, there is value when it comes to that. For the most part, who are the organizations, institutions that are meeting community needs? It's usually your higher ed institutions. I think of Mississippi State. Mississippi State has the purview for, there we go. They have the purview for cybersecurity education for the whole entire state. That's citizen all the way through K-12. So now, who is the one who is actually starting to provide that kind of construct, curriculum, everything? It's the higher ed institutions that are getting more involved with this. But at the same time, they're now being able to address security needs across the board because they're doing a systematic program, community-based focus, and now they're actually getting security into all the digital attack point services. So it's really meeting the technology needs and also the kind of social community, which is the key of the grant conversation. We don't want to miss, workforce development as well. There's a big, large burden that comes from there. And if any of you guys have ever worked with guys and gals who work for state, local government, or you have friends, you can obviously see there's really good synergies there. I'll go over a few lists of synergistic grants that kind of higher ed and local, state, and local governments usually kind of go after, but there's, again, a lot that's sitting out there. You can never forget healthcare. If you are part of like Emory, or you're part of an institution that has a hospital that is attached to it, some health portion towards it, there is another synergistic way to actually apply for grants, help you with your cybersecurity needs, and also on top of that, the process. So what does the store look like? we kind of go through these 4 areas, and this is the quick flow chart. Only what would end up happening is you guys as a customer would work with Medina and Gwen at SafePC and say, hey, I'm interested, I have all these plans we've already talked about, kind of some of the projects we're going to work on. And again, we want to always get in mind, and our HPC do a wonderful job of understanding and knowing this, not talking so like technology, but talking actual project, right? Or how about I always say this, grants fund projects, not products. So as long as we have a project mindset in play, and we can say, hey, I want to address this inclusion need that I have, and it's for an underrepresented community, or it's for easy one right now. There's billions of dollars being put out for broadband. We need broadband in healthcare and higher ed institutions are considered anchor institutions that can go after these funds. Now, yes, I want to be able to provide internet connectivity and the ability to share information and training to my potential student growth, trying to get to that 1,000 number that University mentioned too. But also above and beyond that, now I've just taken on a whole bunch. So now my narrative has to match, this is kind of what my big picture goal is. And then with that funded prospect, you tell us, we have a form, we fill it all out, we go with that full funds for you guys. In a few minutes, I'll show you kind of what that looks like. Actually, I'm having a presentation, but the template, we'll send the template out.
Okay.
I can show you this. You'll see a good template for higher education from this slide. So after funder prospecting, you go to grants readiness coaching. And this is where not only are we looking at, okay, what are the funds going to go after, but if you want to go at this alone, or if you want to use SafePC, or you guys have an in-staff grant writer, we're not just going to leave you like hanging the birch. We're going to try to provide you with anchors. Here's kind of best steps cases that you see with these funds for people to be successful. And we're not going to write it for you, but we're going to pretty much say, this is the narrative you need for that question. You come back and say, I'm on question 5 of page 497. And yes, there are 500-page grant applications that are out there that are very pain in the butt. We're going to say, hey, you should probably say this, and tell you that, and then ultimately get you guys going on where it needs to go. And then we also work on project-specific consultation. So after the fact, what does that look like, as well as proposal development assistance. The value that Fortinet and SafePC will actually hopefully bring to you guys is saying you don't have time, you don't have the cycles to work with this. Having Gwen on staff here, she enables you guys to be able to actually provide and go after the funds that are available. So that's not something you have to go alone. We are in the way of working. Here's some examples of projects that are usually funded. I mentioned broadband connectivity, that's on the state and local side, but you see it in healthcare a lot of times, and you also see it in higher education. I'm trying to think, I think Tennessee State recently went ahead and got awarded a grant for some broadband connectivity to kind of feed some of the underprivileged areas that they take care of. They also do that as well for rural nurse or community health, they kind of do it together. One of the things that a bigger call out for higher education we always see is infrastructure supporting faculty research. It's a perfect play for the Azure platform, especially when you're talking about, before you mentioned this great, I'm going to be able to spin up and spin down what I need, what I don't need. But then on top of that, I have to be able to address the concept that higher ed, especially in the research capacity, has an open and inclusive culture, and that usually translates to the network having to be open and inclusive. So I always secure something that requires multiple figures to be able to do that. Again, there's a great value approach towards that. We have multiple use cases of higher ed institutions going into the cloud and utilizing that and getting grant funds to actually fulfill those. Those individual research projects, that could be anything from Cal Polytech is doing a research project around what does 5G look like in the construct of really hilly areas, and how do they actually go to the private LTE side of the world. That's one of those areas where they get a grant and they get a fund. So as you can see, they're very wide use of funds. Anything you kind of think of, there's for the most part usually funds that are out there within reason. I would also call into the conversation that when you're talking about funds and you're talking about grants, it's always best to look outside of your internal IT needs and go towards other folks within your institution. Go to the doctors, go to the teaching staff, talk to them about what you want to do and see how can we kind of layer together, how can we partner together internally to make this an education-based initiative for training, because ultimately that's going to help really set you apart from other folks that are going after the same goal. So, 900 million. Here's an example of grants for higher ed that are just open for this quarter alone. Right now, I can give you guys a pretty good rundown if you wanted to, but for the most part, this chart gives you about everything that you need to know to understand outside of some of the specifics up there. But as of right now, the big ones that I'm seeing right now on this list that are talking about cybersecurity, talking about good network security, talking about teaching, workforce development, they're kind of listed in these next two slides. The first two ones, the Campus Cyber Infrastructure Grant Program, thinking of our friends at Mississippi State, that's a $20 million fund there. That is something that you can actually go after today. That's heavily targeted towards actually making sure that cyber infrastructure is updated. It's specific to that. It's a great one to go after. It is a pretty large application process, but there are things that work for specific institutions. If you're an HBCU, you normally get higher priority. If you're feeding and filling more underprivileged student population or even needs towards it, you're going to score higher usually those application grants towards that. If you can show within that campus cybersecurity infrastructure that you're actually supporting educational needs and teaching towards it, you're going to get a higher score. So that's a great program right now. A lot of schools are not actually in the higher ed world are not really going after that. But as you can kind of see, it kind of spans the gamut. A lot of times they're non-academic institutions, so maybe someone who's providing add-on services, they're usually the ones that usually get that actual campus infrastructure. You can kind of see the deadline. The deadline is March 1st. That's next week, right? now it's the way it works. Yes. Yeah, exactly. I was going to draw you to the deadline. Now, I can tell you what's going to probably happen with this. This will be a very popular fund, and it will come back around. Yeah. So right now it's kind of up in the air if it's going to be there, but it probably will come back around because I think they're going to see the need that's out there, and it's going to open up. If not to this program, it will open up to a wider range program. They'll combine a couple of them together. The secure and trustworthy cyberspace education category. This is specifically, this is one that can be done anytime. Now, really kind of the background around this fund is you want to make sure that everything you're doing from a cybersecurity investment is meeting educational needs and outcomes. So there are certain areas with these grants, you've got to make those education needs and outcomes. But here's a really easy kind of thought path that goes towards this. Whatever network you want to teach someone on, whatever physical infrastructure you want to use, try to mimic it after what you already have. Work on that security roadmap of going from good, better, best, run, crawl, walk, like Corey kind of had on this presentation, and show, basically, try to either, if you need to, fit the funds to that framework, or have that framework that's specified that you have, and then build whatever those educational outcomes of teaching cybersecurity to match the same network infrastructure you have. That makes sense.
And Mike, what we will do today, I'm going to have Gwendolyn download the campus cyber infrastructure grant program. I'm going to have Gwendolyn review it. If you are interested, she will attempt to get it in by March 1st. So let us know if you are interested. Because if you have a lot of the information together, she knows how to pull it together and meet the deadline. I don't think you should give up yet. It is February 23rd. It ain't over till it's over. You got a week. Right. But I mean, if we gotta go through this weekend, we're talking about $20 million. I know Atlanta Tech could definitely use it and get this. I know Morehouse, Alabama State, Allen University, Morris Brown. I know everyone here today, and even Emory School of Medicine. Now, let me tell you, Emily's over here just texting all of the research institutions in Florida, and they're like, why weren't we need to be at this workshop. So again, they may hit the March 1st deadline. I'm just saying, we gonna download it today, people.
Right. How long does it take to fill out the application? To once the application is submitted, so to speak, and approved, how long should it take to start?
Well, yeah, so since COVID, some of those things changed. I'll give you a really good example. The cybersecurity growth, what's happened with what we've seen on some of the initiatives from CISA have really affected everything that's on the federal side of the world. So this one is the actual secure, trustworthy, this campus cybersecurity program. That one is actually done by the Department of Education. Because of the ESSER 2 and her funds right now, they might say it takes 60 days, but be prepared in 90 to 120 days for actual response once you actually get it. Now, that's assuming that you've met all criteria, you might have to go back and actually do any edits on any of the applications. And if you look at the narrative, so if you provide a narrative that is really a big picture project, but you have to provide detail towards it, it's going to take you a long time to fill all that out because you want to be as specific detail as possible. On the other side, they're going to take a long time to screen out. So it's a pretty extensive process.
But
Usually
remember, we already got security plans in place. We already have budgets, we already have proposals, so.
How long does it take to approve?
So for the funds actually go towards that. So it's usually, we'll have to check with the notice of funding is towards each of those grants that's out there. So then we'll have a separate date, depending on, usually if they fall within that same funding year, we're gonna try to get it on the federal time frame of October 1st. That's what the federal fiscal year comes towards. So I want to try to, make sure that we get funds before that time frame, although I've seen it go over. But for these ones on here, we have to look at every specific grant because they'll have a specific funding date. And they try to get these for the most part. And I don't have that on the slide, here. Some of that is they might not have that list of funding actually out there because usually it'll 30 to 60 days from once they do the close deadline based off of recipients. Yes.
Are you able to share with us some of the things that's inside of this campus?
Yeah, actually.
You all, I just think we gotta swap. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so specifically, basically for the CC grant program, and this is just one of many, there's still SLCGP, you guys can go towards off your state, there's still state specific ones. But this one, since it is this is the actual program itself, it's to coordinate campus level data networking, infrastructure capabilities, and services that lead to higher levels of performance, reliability, capability of science applications, research projects, and any requirements that are basically driven from the primary litigation for the actual activity. So there's 7 areas that comes out of. So that was the overview. Basically, what they want to look at is they want to support projects that fall within data-driven networking infrastructure for the campus and researcher. So that is meaning, getting more of like the software defined or using data, provide better services on your network infrastructure. Regional connectivity with small institutions of higher education. So if you, a lot of times this isn't really put out there, but say they need a connection to maybe a remote campus, underserved area, it's going to help take care of that cost. Or if you're a smaller school or you're in a more rural area, you'll at least be able to apply funds with that. Network integration and applied innovation. That's very broad. Those are very, very broad, almost enigmatic terms, but that's what they have. Campus computing and computing continuum, great conversation when it comes to cloud, and any type of data exportation. Regional computing, so that's kind of going into a federated model of data being, placed somewhere most likely or being, partnered with. Data storage and planning grants and critical infrastructure research alignment. Those are kind of the 7 criteria areas for that fund. And then as you see, I would ultimately say the easy button for most folks when you are going to have specific students involved, definitely make it the lives of areas 1 and 2 of the data-driven network infrastructure for campus and research, meaning setting up that separate, you get paid set that separate network, that segmented network, and then the kind of the regional connectivity for smaller institutions and everything that talks about actually getting connectivity. That includes your WAN, your LAN, and just making sure that secure networking and any of the other infrastructure piece that comes with that. Those are usually kind of two wide areas of uses that I've seen this grant program address. Yeah, no worries. It's a mouthful, and we can sit down and talk about this more later. On top of that, I have the secure, trustworthy cyberspace on the educational outcomes. The Small Rural School Achievement Program, well, that does say LEAs towards that, depending on where you're at, your community college, or if you are a public school that actually, public college actually falls under some local education area. I know it happens a lot in Florida, it might happen in your state. For the most part, you can apply for those types of funds and who's available for those. Again, those are usually the Department of Education grants, and what they want to actually look to see is, and that comes from the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. And again, one of those conversations that come down to is making sure that it's very student focused. That's what they want to see, and everything we do is student focused as the main driver for some of those LEA specific grants that you see on the elementary side. One call out here is since we have some folks here for international, is the Defense University Research and Experimentation Program. Again, that is if you're an institution of higher ed or a nonprofit. Again, 48 million to go ahead and actually apply for funds into that area. It really comes down to any research and within the defense sector, anything that has to probably do with controlled confidential information, you need to apply for those funds to do so. The technology is covered to support the actual research that's being done there. High-end instrumentation grant program, again, that's more of a technical based conversation, but grants that are able to talk about anything from the research and support of any of the instrumentation side of the world. So if you're doing anything from an OT perspective, or manufacturing, where you have specific kind of anything that you would think of more on the, I would just say, using IT/OT as a differentiator. Anything that would be more on the operations side of the world, we can usually cover that, but again, you need to look specific at the requirements for that. I can talk to us about that if you're interested in that area. And then, of course, within their last two, I think that really makes sense is the 21st Century Community Learning Centers and the Strengthening CTE for the 21st Century. Those are two programs right now where they vary by states. You may have actually seen some of those. Those funds usually kind of keep coming around every couple of years or every year or so often. You have to apply at the state level. So that's a federal fund that goes down to the state Department of Education or education examiners board to divvy out those funds. And again, it's really technical focused education programs, career focused. So anything that you're doing for workforce development, you're going to provide a diploma, certificate for cybersecurity, esports gaming. I heard that talk earlier, you mentioned that. Yeah, it will cover the cost for that and the network to build that out and the physical infrastructure to build that out and your software licensing will build that out. So you can obviously piggyback on this. And then last but not least, I do want to go over real quick the time clock counting down. 6/30/2023 is when the funds have to actually be expended on here. I put these in here, and I went for just 3 states here: Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina. If there's any other states, come see me and I can tell you what that is. But again, here's the overall funds that are there. This is just for higher education, but $2.2 billion for the state of Georgia. And really, people talk about, hey, we spent our HERF funds. I do want to really call this out. There's a lot of people have spent the institutional portion. A lot of folks will sit here and say, hey, I use these funds, and why are I using our institutional funds? And yes, fund technology needs them from the perspective of supporting remote digital education learnings and the safety is the last three guidance that was put out by the Department of Education, cybersecurity violations, called out. But what you're seeing is a lot of institutions are taking some of that institutional portion and applying it to the student portion, which was to help out with, rightfully so, the cost of student debt and just tuition and living. But there are also still, within our HBCUs and SIs and some of our other more rural areas, there are these 3 funding mechanisms that are there. So in the state of Georgia, for the HBCUs, they were awarded $320 million of actual specific funds that allow for a wide use of raise, wide array of use of funds. It can be technology, it can be teacher raises, it can be setting up new programs for educational outcomes. At $320 million so far, only about $191 million has been spent. So I can go down in conversations to see what is there available for your specific institutions. But I'm always skeptical when people tell me that this is reported to the Fed as of December 31st. So take that with a grain of salt. Some people might have actually used a lot of these funds, but I am still skeptical sometimes when people say we utilize all of our funds, because there are a lot of folks in a lot of institutions who don't realize they have minority serving institution funds. In Georgia alone, there's still $15 million of institutions that are out there. There's still strictly an institutional program, whether it's, for the most part, I don't know, $1 million left. So there's still funds that are available, and I want to make a big note of that. So I did the same thing real quick for Alabama. You can see the HBC portion of what's available. Again, I can go down to individual schools later if we need to. But you can still see there's there's $130 million left in the HBC bucket, if you will, as well as not very much in MSI and restricted in institutional funds. So they've done a pretty good job on that. But I also want to call out the institutional portion too. There still is about pretty close to $80 million left of institutional spend that schools utilize for technology, cybersecurity, modernization, kind of support educational outcomes. And then again, South Carolina as well. There's about 20 million-ish in the HBC fund, and then about $1 million in the MSI, and about $2 million in institutional. So, end of the day, there's still reporting funds that are out there that are available. Now, reports usually lag when it comes to the federal side. So the reality has come down to people who know or people who are signing over the checks. But most of the states and most of the Department of Education, at least on the federal side, they do require reports that are back. So on the HERF funds, please know that there still are other money buckets that are out there. A lot of C-suite level folks only know about the student institutional portion, and they might not understand some of the other buckets that's available. So, and lastly, I've shared this before, but in higher education, we had a customer was looking to fund about $200,000 for Fortinet Microsoft solutions to refresh their infrastructure. This was actually one of those conversations where the partner was not SAFEC, this was a New Jersey institution. And we actually did a bunch of research about it. The state had a specific grant that was going out to the actual state educational institution. So we provided support services for that. $200,000 turned into a $2 million funding expenditure to actually help support a brand new cybersecurity program that they're doing in education, as well as upgrade their infrastructure, which is always good. So they were able to offload plenty of things to the cloud. They're able to offload and update their current physical infrastructure. And as of right now, they give the award. So this was one of those positives and successes there. So I want you guys to see that this is one of those things where we have good outcomes. We have people actually getting the actual job done, and they're funding and actually helping out their constituents. So there's probably, I'm sure, a lot of other questions, but I did want to, I can pray for that, and then I want to quickly talk for how we want to do this.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
Okay.